All right, so I've got a few slides here to kind of just mostly guide me along, but most of this will actually be doing some on-screen demos of some changes to which are in staging at the moment, but we can demo them in their completeness today live. But just a rundown of the different topics that I'd like to go through. I'll have some general high-level comments about what we're changing and what's changed, why it's changed, that kind of thing. Then we'll get into these four topics after the general notes are really where the demo comes in, looking at some of the changes to the interface, some of the changes to the edit screen and the way it looks and feels. Then some new bits and pieces about links and images, which I know have been kind of pain points historically when working with web content. And lastly, a look at the workflows and permissions and what's historically, maybe it's caused confusion in the past and how that might be simplified now. A lot of this is all about what has maybe historically caused some problems in the past and how we're trying to simplify it and make it more consistent. That's kind of an overarching theme of pretty much everything here.
How long do you want the meeting to go?
How late?
How long? Yeah.
Oh, well, we have about an hour blocked officially.
About an hour, and most of the change implemented is already in staging. We will see like a live demo and want to get some input, and
right.
Then if everybody feel okay with those kind of change, we will begin to implement to the production down the road.
Okay.
Yeah.
The reason I asked, I had two different meetings of the same title on my calendar. One was an hour and a half, one was an hour. So.
Oh, okay. We plan to demo about an hour, and then if anybody have more time or question, prefer to stay with more question and answer,
okay.
Right.
We will continue. Yeah.
Right, and it might not even take a full hour to get through all of this. But I'm going to try to, between each topic, I think, try to open up, leave a little bit of time for some questions instead of just burning through everything as fast as I can. At least we can take it in small chunks. So before getting into the demo, though, just some high-level points just to orient everybody. So these changes that we're going to look at today are about the editing experience and improving that experience, and we're not really making any notable changes to the way end users see the site, right? So the way everybody else in the public, the experience that they have has not changed as a result of any of this. This is still a bit of I would still call it a beta phase, like Patricia said. We're currently just working in staging, and then we'll be rolling out these changes after a little bit of feedback today. And we'll talk about the timelines for that, but it's still kind of in a testing and review stage. And there will be some testing and tweaking that continues even after we roll it out, because we haven't been able to test every single page in the site and see if there are some incompatibilities. So there will be some ongoing tweaking. It's probably worth mentioning that up front, but doing our best to make sure that everything is going to be ready to go and clean and robust before deploying anything. And then lastly here about what we're talking about today and what will come after today. This is more of a, well, it's kind of half demo, half training, but I would classify today as just a demo. So I'm not going to get into the intricate details of exceptions and things that you might encounter when you're doing things in a hands-on fashion. But because we're not going to get into that, we will try to capture some screencasts that are more explicit training that you can access through the website directly and reference to get the nitty-gritty details that we can't really get into today in an hour. And I will probably try to break down those screencasts along a similar set of topics as to the way I'm trying to break things down today. So there'll be isolated chunks that you can view online and reorient yourself at any time when you have questions about any of this stuff.
Will those screencasts be like in a separate section in Confluence, or is there some way that those can be linked from the actual work?
That's
space?
the idea, would be to actually link it right in there, right in line.
Right.
When you're editing, you can actually view a small training on whatever specific topic you happen to have a question about. You'd be able to click open a window and that would run through a screencast. This, so what we're recording today, we'll also be able to make available at some point, and maybe as a placeholder until those other targeted training screencasts are ready to go. So I want to just get right into the demo points. So the first topic is just a high-level look at some of the interfaces and navigational changes, again, strictly from the perspective of an editor. There's a couple of points. These are mostly just to orient myself, but finding our way around some navigational mechanisms that are new, looking at the edit mode versus view mode, and also the creating new content workflow. So let me jump into an actual browser here. Now you notice I'm in staging, right? Because nothing has really been deployed yet in production. That's currently, as of today, looks and feels like it always has. And this is going to be accessible to anybody who's wants to actually log into the staging account. So that's where we're working right now. Now, the first thing I want to do, I'm just going to log myself in. And I assume that when I actually don't know, do most of you just go to the /login page when you log in, so everybody's comfortable with that? I'm gonna log in as not my normal user account, but just a separate account I have where I've got the same permissions as a normal editor, as opposed to an administrator. So I can see the same thing that everyone else in this room would see when they log in. At the end, we'll talk a little bit more about the different permissions levels. Okay, so far everything's the same. I think everyone here, when you log in, you go straight to this dashboard perspective. The only point I want to make here is just make it clear the distinction between this interface and the public interface. So this is the kind of back-end interface. See, it doesn't look like the public interface. It's got a different menu structure. You don't have your regular navigation. Though I think from a terminology perspective, I usually refer to this as kind of that back-end administrative interface. The only thing editors would really be doing here is accessing this dashboard. Administrators, we do a lot of other things back here, and we're configuring the site and making low-level changes, but those options you wouldn't be accessing, and most of them wouldn't even be available to you anyway. So this dashboard is probably the only thing that you would be using this interface for. And this is really not changed either. There's a couple of items here that we've adjusted. I'll try to get to those in the end. We can talk more about how you leverage the dashboard and make use of it when you're working with content when we get towards the end of things today. For now, just want to point out it is a different interface. At any point, if you want to orient yourself and just need to get back to the home page, no matter what interface you're in, you've always got the ability to go back to the home page by finding a link in the upper left-hand corner. Here's the public interface and the logo. It will just take you back to the home page from any other page. Nothing new there. One thing that is new is this piece of navigation right here. So this is a jump menu, and just trying to consolidate some of the kind of quick links to various places that editors might need to go. This really has nothing to do with normal users. They don't see this. This is only for editors. This will appear as a persistent piece of navigation in both the dashboard or this back-end interface that's over here, as well as the public interface. One of the links, of course, will get you back to the dashboard from any place, anytime. You can find these set of options and get back to the dashboard, get to your account settings where you can change your password, that kind of thing. The create content screen, this is your go-to place when you want to go ahead and create new content, for example. This administer link really doesn't reveal any options for editors, but this will take you to any administration options that you happen to have access to. And then, of course, a regular logout link. And now we can also tweak this menu and add new links if we discover in the future there's some common thing that you just need a quick link to at all times. So that is new, and that will hopefully help orient people as you navigate around. Now, I think everyone's familiar with, once you log in and you are logged in, as you browse around, you start to have links available to you that normal site users don't. Some of the various options that are available to you may have changed a little bit because we're trying to enable some things, access to different features that you might not have had access to before. But long story short, you still have your edit and your view links available, just as always. I'm going to switch over into edit mode. Let me pick a different page. I'll just go to the services page here.
What's with the giant pencil? Is that just like a dummy image?
That's just a dummy image. This is staging,
I
so.
was trying to demo how to load a graphic, but it doesn't mean to be there.
Right. So we'll look at that specifically, the way images work in a short bit. So this is the change, and this is kind of a notable change. I've entered edit mode here, and you'll see that the interface is still the public interface. Let me go to, this is the regular website. I'll just go to that exact same page actually, so we can kind of have a compare and contrast. Exact same page, edit mode. Historically, right, we toggle ourselves into this backend interface. The idea behind not doing that anymore is just to have more of an inline editing experience so that you stay in the public interface. And one of the really noteworthy advantages of doing it this way is also that when you preview and work with your content, you can see the stylistic characteristics that the end user will see more readily, as opposed to in the past where you were adapting different theme settings from the admin interface. So you weren't necessarily seeing what the content would look like when it's published. And this is that very same page. Let me just click on preview. And you'll see that because our editor interface is in this back-end admin interface, the styles aren't the same. And that, depending on the type of content you're working with, that can be problematic, I think. So it's just a little bit more of a quote-unquote inline editing experience by keeping the theme, the public theme, active when making edits. This will also give us a little bit more flexibility in terms of the visual editor experience as well, because we can also, the fonts and the styles, we can also maintain those even while you're actually making your edits. And we're going to look a little bit more at the visual editor in a moment, but before getting into that, I do want to show you the create content screen, which is also within the public, or the main, let's call it the main interface, the main public interface. And another one of the changes here is trying to kind of cluster the different, I know this can be confusing because there's so many different content types that editors have the ability to access and create new pieces of content based on a different content type template. These it's maybe a little easier to navigate if we cluster them together such that the base types, the common types that are changing quite readily are right there at the top. Collections, types that are related to collections, materials within different designated sections of the website, those are clustered together. Focus content clustered together. Tool resource forum clustered together, and then miscellaneous stuff at the end. And we can shift where things live within these different clusters as applicable. But this is, of course, the other way to get to edit mode, right? Is to start creating a new piece of content versus editing an existing piece of content. And really, the only difference here is you're entering edit mode with a blank slate. And that's really nothing new. I think everybody's familiar with that idea. So that's kind of the first chunk, those high-level changes. What I want to get into next is going to be looking at specific structures and fields that are available on the edit page, and what's common across all content types versus what's special on specific special content types. So before going into that, though, I know this isn't really a whole lot of new information, but I'll just, before going into that, is there any questions?
I don't want to slow us down too much, but could you just show the screen again of the inline editing? I didn't quite get where like the prompts are. I guess the idea is you can see the way it's going to look. Okay, so you're hitting edit.
Hitting edit. Mm-hmm.
Are we in edit already?
Now we're in edit mode.
No. Oh, okay. I just missed some of that.
The only difference is that instead of things looking like this in edit mode, where we have this different interface, now edit mode appears within the public interface, the normal interface, with our regular.
The main part, the action part is the same, it's just the content.
Yes.
Right? Oh,
You're just
I see.
turning the main content area into a bunch of editable fields. That's really all that's happening.
The view I did a revision you perhaps are familiar with. It's just a little more like now you see the clone and whichever has a bar is the current mode you're in.
Right, whichever has the underline. So now I'm in edit mode. If I go to view mode, then view becomes highlighted. And some of these other options reveal different things, that more advanced kind of editorial tasks, but I'm not going to get into that now.
You can still disable rich text and use code
Yeah.
and all
Yeah.
the stuff that.
Yeah,
used to
yeah,
do.
that hasn't changed.
What was the one thing in the list of topic guide image as a separate
Yeah.
line item?
The content type for topic guide image.
That was Amy and her staff did a lot of copy guide each
Yeah, I think that was a
items.
special case.
And they will edit that. Others perhaps so far didn't edit much, but it was always there as a content type.
Just an image?
I think
No, each little piece of the note is a content type. We originally, when we migrated from the other system, we created those content types. So if we create a new, each of the citation is there.
Okay,
But that's
I
not
don't
a
remember ever
citation.
seeing that before.
I think it
know
was
what
probably
is.
just buried at the end of the
We can
list.
hide more, but
Yeah.
this is what we thought might be helpful to bring up.
it's not
If I remember right,
Just topic guide image.
if I remember right, is the image is used in.
Oh, the
Yeah.
topic guide image.
Yeah.
You're talking about topic guide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's,
In the
I mean,
past, right. Maybe
can
we
just-
should hide that one because we,
Yeah.
at some point, we really selected a bunch of images for each topic guide. And
Yeah.
then we decided not to use that particular model. So, right.
That-
That one perhaps should be.
So
We
that
can-
just confused me.
We can depreciate that.
Yeah.
There's some things that
We
are
can move
kind
it
of being
down.
depreciated.
Right.
because with the new format for topic guides, there's just
Yeah.
one image on the landscape.
Right.
And you
but-
can just
but-
add that in
Yes.
the
Yeah.
note.
We
You don't need a
selected
separate.
a whole bunch, Amy's students selected a whole bunch back then, and we decided not to use it.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Thank you for helping set that up.
All right, let's get into the edit screen and how that's changed. You can see that it's obviously, the interface has changed. It's still in that public interface as opposed to the back-end admin interface, but also it's been cleaned up kind of rather significantly. Let me pull up an example again. Let's go back to this one services landing page. This is just a normal content type page. It's the generic content type that doesn't apply to any specific section. This, trying to kind of put a little more white space here, just clean this up a little bit, and more than anything, try to make it so anything an editor would care about is what you see and is really all that you see. I think in the past this view has been maybe a little bit confusing. There's a lot of stuff here that may or may not be something that you know how to use. It's a field that maybe you don't touch because you don't know what it means, or the order is inconvenient, whatever. The case, what we're shooting for is what you see is really all that you need to see. And the rest of the stuff is still available, but it's kind of hidden down here at the bottom in these little panes that you 99% of the time won't access. So once you get down to this the line between your fields up here and these little panes that toggle, there's a good chance that you're done editing what you're going to be touching. And a lot of those things that maybe were confusing in the past and didn't know what they were have been moved down there, have been kind of disabled completely. The types of content that you always are going to see, I think everybody's comfortable with this idea that each content type that we looked at on the create content page has its own structure, right? It has its own set of fields and different fields that are exposed when you actually publish the content type, and different fields that are kind of metadata to help organize the content. Each content type is unique in that respect. What you will always see, or almost always see, of course, is your title, this highlight image, which I'm going to get into when we talk more about images, the teaser field. Everyone comfortable with the teaser field and what that does? Your main body content. Sometimes it's not called body, but pretty much any piece of content has kind of a main body content. A lot of pieces of content have some kind of categorization options available to them. This particular, the page content type has some menu options available to it. This is somewhat unique to the page content type. And then almost every piece of content will have some workflow options available to it. And that's something that is that last topic that I want to cover. But that is something you'll pretty much see everywhere.
Go back to the teaser and show what a teaser looks like on our website.
Yeah, okay, it's a good idea. A teaser, this is kind of a refresher then. A teaser is what is used in list views. If content appears in a list view somewhere on the site, the teaser content is what accompanies that entry in the list, like an abstract. Not all content types will actually use the teaser, but it's typically a field that's available to editors if that content ever does appear in a list.
So for a regular page, would it have a teaser just in case it appeared?
Yeah, most content types do have the teaser. Like bibliographic citations, for example, doesn't have a teaser, right? Because that's listed in a very unique and special way. But most of the main content types do have a teaser. Whether or not it's used and where it's used depends on what piece of content we're talking about. News and events use their teasers, for example. Those are easy examples. Pages, not so much, though it may be a field that you can still access. All right. Let's see, where was I? Okay, so what I ran through, let's take a real quick look at, I was looking at a page, just take a really quick look at a news article. Kind of a bit of a refresher, I know, but let's just drive the point home that different content types will have a slightly different structure. So now I'm opening a news article and still a title. This has some special fields that are news, only related to news content types, such as topical information about when that news was published, who were the contact people for that. But all in all, the fields that we ran through, teaser, body content, categorization options, and workflow options, right? Those are still there. And there's not a whole lot more to it than that, right? A quick note about the visual editor. You'll see it looks a little different. This is actually a different visual editor than the one we were using before, and that's really only significant for technical reasons. There's a lot of technical improvements with this particular visual editor. It's kind of like a widget tool that powers that what you see is what you get kind of editing experience. This one's better, it's new, it provides us with a little more control and a little more flexibility. All I really want to say right now is that if you know how to use the other one, this is really not going to be all that different. So
we shouldn't expect any change, for instance, in cutting and pasting from, right now I'm doing some from Word and pasting.
That's actually my next point. That's kind of the one thing I want to highlight, which isn't necessarily new, but is a salient point that I think we should talk about while we're all here. Firstly, though, these there's edit mode in the current website, right? We have our normal toolbar with our formatting options. Really nothing's changed in that regard. There are some new buttons over here which relate to working with links and images, which is going to get to very shortly. But other than that, I think everyone would be just quite comfortable with this if they are comfortable with the other editor. So I'll kind of leave it at that for now. The last point there is getting into that one specific general stylistic note, which is the dealing with formatting of content that comes from other places. And actually, you know what, I think I'd like to just make it a question first, because I don't really know how that's historically been handled. You know, what was everybody taught to do before? If you have a Word document and you need to get the content into a web page, what has been your workflow?
Well, I mentioned some stylistic problems I was running into, and I thought Russ at one point told me I needed to put everything in a plain text format first. But for reviews, I often compose in Word first. So I've been kind of crossing my fingers and making that work. I run into that one today, remember that?
Right.
Where there was a problem. But I kind of try to make it work copying from Word, and then if I see a problem, I'll go back and clean it up or something.
Yeah,
sometimes I
okay.
compose directly, but if I'm copying, I typically copy from Word.
Okay.
Yeah, I do that. I copy and paste, and if there's any extra code, that's when I go to the disable rich text and take out any extra fonts
see.
or weirdness.
So
It might depend on what the end product is, but I tend to do the text editor, strip out all formatting.
Okay, so one way or another, everybody is already quite conscious of the fact that Word, if you paste from Word or some others, even another web page or whatever the source may be, if it has formatting when you paste it, the editor tends to maintain that formatting, which can have consequences. For example, it breaks the consistency sometimes, where we have formatting on one page that looks different than, the headers are different or than they are on one page versus another page. And in a web context, consistency is very important. And you also, it can be a frustrating endeavor to try to clean things up once they're already messed up within the visual editor. What I've typically encouraged on other projects that I've been involved with visual editors for web content is to use a paste as plain text method, where you start with raw text and then you add formatting to it after it's been pasted. And there is an option in this editor, and I think there was to some extent in the old editor, but there's an explicit paste as plain text button here in this editor, and I think I have a Word document that just has some bogus kind of formatted text here. And I mean, if I copy this, go back here, I'll just go down to the bottom of this page, and if I paste straight away, there's that familiar, this has some actual security mechanisms in place. Every computer's a little different. So if I paste, right, there's my formatting, and I think what everyone said that they do now is they go and they clean it up after the fact. I might just encourage, instead of cleaning it up after the fact, to start with this paste as plain text option. And then, depending on the browser and the computer you're using, you may or may not see this pop up. But the idea is that you're eventually stripping all the formatting during your paste action, so that what appears is just raw text. And I've kind of inserted this one into the bulleted list above it, so let me try it again down here.
But the good part is you wouldn't have to use that intermediate application. You can just do the pastes.
Right.
Plain text.
Then you've got your cleanup after the fact. For example, I don't want these little characters as bullets. I want to use actual web bulleted formatting. I think this was bold before. This was a header. I don't want this line to be part of my header, so I'm going to make a clean break with a full carriage return, and then I'm going to go ahead and put that back to normal text. There's a cleanup process, and getting the hang of how to do it quickly and easily and efficiently takes a little bit of time. And I don't want to look at all the exceptions and gotchas right now, but I think this might be a little bit cleaner workflow than pasting and cleaning after the fact, because there's all kinds of hidden stylistic metadata that goes in there as well, which is messy from technical reasons too. This is very clean end-to-end process that keeps everything in a nicely structured, consistent format across the entire website.
As we all know, Word can introduce a lot of junky formats,
Right.
really,
Yeah.
quite a bit, and this is very important because sometimes by chance our copy paste worked, but it introduced a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Or weird formatting that you only really notice the problem when you go to make changes to it, that kind of thing. There's a lot of reasons to try to work with the lowest common denominator, which is just raw text. And I will just, in terms of speaking frankly, you know, there's no secret that when you work with a visual editor like this, it can be frustrating. It's like the first time you learn to use Microsoft Word. There's you know, all kinds of frustrations. I didn't mean for this paragraph to take the styling of that paragraph, and why is this attached to that head? You know, why did I have to make a clean break before I turn that more text into a plain text or body paragraph text? There's all kinds of little things like that, and you know, trust me, I get frustrated with it all the time myself. And there's no real way around that. But the alternative would be to edit your content in something that looks like this.
So much better.
I do
I
that
like
sometimes.
This
I like
is
doing
so
it too.
much better.
If you know how to use HTML and you're willing to edit HTML, by all means, you click the source button here, and you can work with it directly here in HTML. And actually, this editor makes it a little bit easier to see the way the content's broken down
That is nice.
Yeah.
in an HTML view.
So you don't hit disable rich text anymore. You go to source.
You can toggle back and forth here. Disabling rich
Either
text
way.
just turns
Either
off the
way,
whole.
but you don't
yeah,
have one
the
long
whole
line
editor.
of coding anymore.
I guess now I'm I mean, sometimes instead of pasting in the text editor and then this, I disable rich text and just paste what I got from Word.
Then you got.
It works the same way.
Okay.
Yeah, I do
That works fine too, and then you can turn the editor back on.
Yeah.
Something
Just
like
to
that.
check your work, yeah. I do that.
You can do that here as well. If it makes it maybe a little easier to toggle back and forth, but either way, you should be fine.
Yeah. Can you click within the screen again? Okay, so, okay, I guess I get it. Down on the bottom there where it says body, UL, line, that's just telling you what code you're in?
That's telling you kind of the hierarchy of
Your
where you
tags.
are in the HTML
Okay,
tag structure. Yeah.
okay.
If you do know HTML, that can be handy, just in terms of navigating where you are and what you're inside, the way things are nested inside each other. If not, you know,
But there's no function to that.
So it's just kind
It's
of a
just
guide.
telling you.
It's kind of a guide.
They were there before.
Yeah.
And that's not very helpful. Very easy.
Okay, so that's really that next chunk. So this is kind of another chance to have a quick stopping point before getting into zooming in one level deeper and looking at some specific links and images, fields, and workflows. First, though, again, are there any other questions? We're going to get progressively introducing more and more new stuff now. And I think this topic of links and images has probably been one of the biggest pain points, at least since I've been here, that has come up across all the different types of content. And the idea, what we're trying to get into now, is simplify the process so that more people can are empowered to work with links. Not that it's a problem for us to help you, but obviously things are going to go smoother if more people are able to work with links, and the process is much more straightforward. So first, kind of a high-level view. I think in the past, links has been a multi-step process, and each step has kind of had its own sub-steps associated with it. You had to figure out where to attach the file and find where the link text or URL exists, and every type of link, whether it was an internal link versus an external link versus a file link, always had kind of a radically different process before. Trying to kind of eliminate all the variants, and make it so that any type of link that you're working with always starts out the same way. You highlight, we're talking now about just text links, not images, just text links. So, you're making a hyperlink within your content to someplace else. Starts out with highlighting your text, and now we're staying within the visual editor. We're not going to go to other parts of the edit page. We're staying within the visual editor and using the link button. This is not so new, I don't think. What happens is we have a pop-up here with a little box, and you're asked, what do I put in this box? Making a link, what do I put in this box? Let's start with the easy case first. You'll see that I had started to kind of outline different types of links. Let's start with the easy case first, which is an external link. So we're linking to a page that's not part of our website. It's just another web page somewhere out there on the internet. I always like to have a separate tab or window open when I'm working with content. And actually, here's a perfectly fine page. Let's say that this is something I want to link to. It's an external link, so the only way I have to access its location is by going to it, figuring out what the address is, where this page lives. I go back to my edit screen and I paste that content in there. Now I've turned this into a link. So this is not new yet, but let's just start with the basic first. Here it is. So I've made an external link. Takes me to that page that I chose. Okay, I'm going to go back to edit mode. I'm going to go back to that link I just created. It was right here. There is a nice little button here that lets you unlink as well. But now let's look at another type of link. So case 2 here that I had in my outline is an internal link. So this is a URL or a link that exists within the same website. I guess one point of clarification here, for example, a lot of CRL websites still have a crl.edu part of the domain, like catalog.crl.edu. Catalog.crl.edu is technically a different website. So that would be an external link. If the link is somewhere within this website, www.crl.edu, because I'm in the staging version of it now, but if it's in the same exact website, the same first part of the URL, then we're talking about an internal link. So in this case, we're starting out exactly the same way. I highlight my text I want to convert into a link. I click the link button, and now I have to figure out once again, okay, what do I put in this box? Now, you could, and I think this is maybe the historic solution to this, is do the exact same thing we just did when I created that link to that external website. Except I'm still in the CRL website, maybe I browse to that page, figure out what the URL is up here, and I copy it and I paste it. That would work, but, and this is probably something that you've been told before, that's not the quote-unquote right way to do it. And I'm not even going to open the door as to why that's bad and what kind of problems that can introduce. That's a whole other topic. If somebody's curious about all the reasons, I'm happy to go into it in detail. But the bottom line is that now there's a slightly different technique, and as long as we make that technique very simple and straightforward and memorable, you don't need to care about why internal links are different than external links. All you have to know is that there's a different technique, but it's very easy. So in an effort to make that easy, here's another version of another tab of the staging site. So let's pick a page to link to. I don't know, maybe this forum page. So instead of copying the content from the URL above, I'm just going to scroll down to the bottom, and there's this little chunk of text down here, which only editors see. And it's got a bit of content here that's usually looks like /node /some number. It depends on the type. You don't really have to care what that is or what its structure is. I'm going to take this, I'm going to copy it, I'm going to go back to my edit mode on my page that I'm editing, paste it, and that's it. So I'm just cutting and pasting just from a slightly different place. Save.
Do we have to clean up pages we've already done?
No, I don't.
If there's
Ideally,
no
yes, but I
problem,
don't know that.
It's not preferred, but
Okay.
just take that bottom ID as each page's unique ID. The first part is the content type, the second part is this ID, and it's very important to use this. That will, down the road, when we migrate, when we do anything, I mean, it's also more efficient.
Can you just go back and show the option again, how you choose the internal link? I'm sorry.
Oh,
It's on in view mode.
Yeah, or no, in the edit mode. Just
Well, you just have to be on the page you want to link to,
the only difference is you copy from the bottom.
and you're copying this.
Oh, yeah, to invoke the link system.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, exactly. To invoke the link is the same. You're just copying it, the link text, or the URL, so to speak, from the bottom of the page instead of the address bar.
Now, at the bottom, are they all going to be nodes instead of the actual menu?
No, they're not all
Is
going to
that
be nodes.
preferred?
That's the first part is the content type.
Mhm.
Yeah.
The second part is the ID.
Like this one on the news page is just news,
Okay.
because it's a special type of page. And if you do see it in green, that usually means it's okay to copy it.
Okay.
I'm trying to build in some logic that makes that turn red. If it's a link you probably don't want to link, if it's a link format you don't want to use. There are some, pages that are administrative pages or that are some kind of revision list or something like that you probably don't want to be linking people to, and try to make that turn red or disappear or something so that, if you don't see a green link, they're probably not on a space that you want to link to. That's kind of the bottom line.
So the lesson learned here, it's never going to be /grn/camp. It's always going to be node.
It might be /grn/camp. It depends on what type of page we're working with.
Okay.
Some views actually do what you see as the internal link is really the same as what you see. Sometimes it's the same, sometimes it's different. But it's always without this part, the domain part, and what's after the domain part may or may not be the same as what you see in the address bar. But what you do see at the bottom of the page will be the correct format to use.
And that's all you need.
Right.
Do those things change automatically when the page gets updated or changed?
Well, what is at the bottom is a permalink,
Yeah, it
so to
does.
speak, so it doesn't change.
Right.
But the alias of the page may change, but the permalink doesn't change, which means the links don't break over
Good.
time. So there is some technical finagling that happens to make sure those links always work, but as long as you use that internal path structure, the system will maintain it and make sure it always points to the right place.
Okay, we don't have that in Confluence because those things seem to be kind of dynamically generated or something with page
Right.
URLs.
No,
Yeah.
Here I also allow this, on the bottom is the true ID and the link for the page, but on the top you can give this page multiple fake names. You can hunt this page into multiple places, but you only keep one physical version that is on the bottom, the true permanent URL.
Right.
Should we cite those should we use those when we have like external communications that we want to send out that we point to a
We
page?
could, but in general, we consider those as dummy URLs because it doesn't convey a meaning. But the top path is usually the smart URLs. We show people what structure,
Logical.
where it's under.
I see.
And in that example that I just made, you see in the bottom left-hand corner there, it's showing the human-friendly version. So the system kind of, it filters it and says, I'm not going to show that /node/whatever. I'm going to show the nice version. And it's just kind of something the system filters for you and handles automatically. But the raw link creation process uses the internal format. the Drupal path format, whatever you want to call it.
No, it's just, maybe I'm dwelling on the point. Sometimes in our page, we treat it, we point to a full URL. Say, go visit crl.edu/forum.
Right, right.
And will it, do we have to go to the forum, find what the node is,
Right.
and link that to that page, or is that automatic? I have no idea.
For
Sorry.
There are
non-web
multiple
resources,
reasons
it's
that's
different.
bad. First of all, you send the user go out,
This is our site.
find the sites and come back and all that kind of stuff. Also, sometimes in the text we say, go to /here/here. So that text should always be meaningful, not the URL.
Yeah.
And we have that on the site also. It takes time to clean up, but we want to continue to build more effective and efficient.
Yeah. So the next one, file links. This is also quite new, and this is really, I think, been a big point of confusion in the past. I think in the past you've had to upload it to a different field within the form and then figure out what the link is, and it's been a multi-step kind of convoluted process. In keeping with the spirit of consistency, I'm going to unlink this example one again, and I'm going to create a new type of link. Process starts the same way. I choose my text, click the link button. Again, I'm confronted with the question, what do I put in this box? This browse server button is the go-to place for file links.
We're talking about attachment.
Attachments.
A PDF, not an HTML page, a file.
This-
a Word, Excel, or something.
This is brand new, and this is kind of going to open up the one-stop shop, so to speak, for dealing with file attachments and file links. Let me just kind of orient you here. So, and the specific folder structure is a little bit of a work in progress right now, but the bottom line is that what you would see here is a tree of folders where you can organize your files on the server. I think everybody understands that if you're going to create a link to a file within a web page, that file has to live somewhere out there on the internet. It has to be on the server. It can't be on your desktop in your office. It actually has to be out there up on the server somewhere before you can even build a link to it that's public. This is a one-stop shop for managing all of that, for navigating files that have already been uploaded to the server and are available for you to reuse. Sometimes you use the same file on multiple pages, as well as a place for you to upload new files that you might be using on the page you're working on right now, for example. It's a little bit like a Windows File Explorer, file browser type of tool, a really simplified version where you navigate your folders over here and what's inside those folders appears over here. And what we're targeting here is probably just two levels. One set of folders for images and another set of folders for files or attachments. And then within each of those, subfolders, which primarily are per content type or per theme or whatever the case may be. We can kind of finesse this as we go along. We'll start probably with subfolders for each content type, just to keep things clean, so you have different places to organize things. I'm going to first just make a really quick example and link to a file that's already exists. This is a file that's been uploaded in the past. What you'll see in here right now is just a bunch of content that's previously been uploaded to the server via other means, but it's there. Let's find like I don't know, something in the events folder here. Well, these are images. I don't want images. I want attachments. Let's look at what's in the event folder here. Here's a PDF from 2007. I choose it, and if there's an image, it would give me a little preview down here. Otherwise, it just gives me the name of the file. And if I click on it, it fills in the little box for me. So you don't have to know what all that means. It just does it for you.
Do
Going back to it for a minute, do you still leave that as link type as URL, or is that a different kind of link? That's still considered a URL? Up there.
This thing?
No, there, yeah.
Oh yeah, no, you don't have for any of the things we're talking about right now.
Okay. They're
These
all-
are all
Even though it's a document on a server, it's
yeah.
only type of
It's still a URL.
Still
These
a
are
URL.
Yeah,
these are
that's a little-
special cases that I'm not going to get into now.
Yeah.
HTML.
But
Yeah, that's a little confusing because I would think that that would only be for an HTML page, but.
it's still a URL. It's just
Oh,
a
I see.
URL to a
Okay.
file.
Universal resource locator.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is that server public?
Yeah, where is that?
Our server, because we
It's
not
our
doing
server.
this is for our staff, others
Yeah.
don't see.
So
it.
others couldn't get it. If they have the URL, they can't get to that, right?
If they have the URL,
Guide
Guess the
facility,
URL.
maybe.
well, that's a good point because I do have a last bullet here about secure and special files, which are special cases where if it's a link like an ERO document that needs to be private,
Folder, right.
then it's different. Then there's a special procedure for that, and I'm not going to cover that now because I think there's only a couple people in this room that might do that on a regular basis, and I'd like to kind of talk to them separately about securing files. What you upload here it's on the server and it's publicly accessible, whether it's exists as a link or not. If somebody knows that URL, they can get to it.
But how do we get stuff on the server?
Yeah.
Well, again,
That will be
that's
a good
next.
idea.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the last point about file links.
Building up to that.
I'm so confused.
So again, same starting
See,
process.
It's the same, just the URL, just click the same icon. Yeah, you only browse a little bit, that's the only difference.
So this time, again, I want to know what to put in this box, and beyond that, I want to know, how to get my file to the server, let alone what its URL is. This same interface, again, is that one-stop shop for dealing with files, which includes uploading new files. So in my tree here, I have a file ready to go. Let's take the example of this Word document I was working with here. I think I have that on the desktop. Demo Word doc, I think it's on my desktop. Okay. So let me just make sure I don't have multiple windows open since I closed that window. Okay, so I'm gonna start from scratch. Highlight my text, link button, browse server. My file's not here yet, right? It's on my desktop. I want to get it here. So I'm gonna pick my folder. Sometimes you need to refresh the parent folder. If for some reason you don't see a subfolder that you're looking for, if you click the parent folder, it will refresh it for you. In this case, it's a Word document. Let's put it into the pages. It's not a picture, it's a document, so it's going to go in attachments, pages. There's a bunch of stuff here already. My document's not here yet, so I'm going to click one extra step. I'm going to click upload. Whenever you see this little browse button, that usually means now you're browsing your computer, not the server. And here's my demo document, open. And then I click upload. Now it's gone to the server into that folder, and it's highlighted that. No error messages, nothing. It's there. It's ready to go. And then the last part is the same.
Is this everybody's stuff who puts stuff on pages, or do you have a separate little sector for the stuff that you're?
We thought maybe the most logical is in this kind of way, under the attachment with the content type. We could do like yours, or use your name.
Yeah,
but
with the
this is what we
subfolders.
chose to do. In the past, this is what we have been doing.
Okay, and you guys would manage it, so you would know where it is. The only potentially confusing, if maybe I'm not understanding it, like reviews, I would be uploading most of the stuff that go under reviews, but pages could potentially be an attachment that anybody who was creating a page had put there?
That's, in general, that's the site.
Yeah.
Reviews, most of those you will familiar.
Yeah.
If it's ERO, most of those Mary will be familiar with, that kind of thing. So that's a general structure similar to our J drive. That is,
Right.
we all have,
Right.
we all can override each other.
Right.
Okay. We did not make it very restrict rights, like this is your file, only Virginia can touch, nobody
Right.
else can override. We did not do it that way.
Right.
So we need to be all mindful. And this has been there for whatever way. Oftentimes you ask one of us to load, or sometimes you attach. But now we open the existing file there in the structure that you can see it and you can manage it.
Yeah.
Well,
Brian, can they all have the rights to delete those files?
Yeah, there are a couple of best practice points, of course, and we'll have to decide what kind of permissions to add to the file browser. For now, for example, let's say you want to update a file that's already linked somewhere, right? We can set things up in a number of different ways. We can set things up so that when you upload a file with the exact same name, it automatically overwrites the existing file that's already there. Or we can set things up so that you have to first delete the existing file and then upload the new file. At the end of the day, the bottom line is however we set it up, people just have to understand that what's up there and sitting in those folders on the server may or may not have links pointing to it. And so it's not something you want to be deleting content, or renaming content. And if you want to replace a file with a newer version, it has to have the same name, right? So there's a few, and this is going to be the kind of things we put in those little screencast tutorials in greater detail. But the bottom line is that there's a few rules of thumb that really have to be followed for things to work. And those rules are not going to be exhaustive, but there are going to be a few things that need to be adhered to. And it's as simple as just knowing, don't delete files if I'm not entirely sure what they are. Don't rename files, and always use the same name if I'm putting up a new version. It's that kind of thing.
One reason we did this is because oftentimes people have questions. Can you attach a file for me? Can you attach a file for me? Also, a lot of people, sometimes you try multiple times, eventually you got the file attached. What happened is you actually uploaded a number of files, different version in there, just different file name, and that need to be cleaned up. But with all this kind of reason, we thought, okay, this is a very important thing, so that you all have the rights and the way to handle it. But they're getting dirtier over time.
It's a little bit of an adjustment just to get used to some of that. But again, I think having those little screencast tutorials available, one click, the first few times you're doing this, you can reference those, or we can help you. But once people are comfortable with this, it should provide a much more consistent way of dealing with links.
If you're trying to upload a file to there and it has the same name as another file that's already, will let you know that it's got, like it does when you do try to save something with
that's one of the options we can control. It can either reject the file with an error, or it can overwrite it. I'm still not entirely sure what the best way would be.
Maybe we say reject.
I would say reject, so that instead you have to consciously delete the existing file and upload the new version.
Or name yours a different.
Or name it a different name, but then.
Or take a look on the other file and see if that really is a different version of your file you want to override, or just give it a chance. So reject would be better.
Right. And this is kind of, there's no real easy way to get around some of these things when you're dealing with a web context, because you are dealing with assets that are separate from this page of content you're working with. And so there are some hoops you have to jump through to make sure things don't break. But as long as the process is consistent, hopefully it'll just make that more manageable.
May I ask one question? Just time check.
Yeah.
Are
We're a
you
little long.
going to lunch? Should we try to schedule another meeting?
There's one more topic,
Or-
which is the workflows and permissions topic, which I can accelerate through, or it depends on how much time people
I
have.
still have a question with.
Go ahead.
Sure.
So we can upload a file from the J drive,
Yeah.
it no longer has to be on the special file that I had to ask you to, like.
Now, you all have rights to load file to any
Mhm.
content type. No matter where you are, it's always consistent.
same.
You mark the word, you click on load, you browse, you can upload your files. So it's where if the file is not on the Drupal server yet, then you can always upload from your C drive, from your local drive, whether it's in your J or C, doesn't matter. You just know your first step is load from your local to Drupal host, and then link from the Drupal host file structure to your page.
Yeah, this is a completely different piece of content, a completely different type of content. It's a news article, but the process is exactly the same. When I click on Browse Server, I see the same set of options I saw when I was on a different type of content. I see the same images and attachments with their various subfolders. It's a master repository of content that's somewhat independent of where you invoke this file browser from.
So Ryan, besides this, you want to show how to link to an embedded image.
Yes,
So-
the image.
And then about rights, and then about workflow. We can sort of rush it, or I mean, what do you prefer? Should we have another meeting, or should we all stay another half hour?
I
What do
prefer
you-
just working through. I don't know,
Another
whatever
half
else this
hour to
afternoon
go
is like.
through? Is it okay with?
As
Okay.
long as we're here.
Okay,
Yeah.
then let's just continue. Yeah.
Okay.
Mary, did we answer your question, or? we-
Yeah, I was just trying to, because in the past, I always had to ask, send you guys a
Right.
flyer.
You don't have to.
Great.
You do it.
And we'll-
no matter where you are, you can do it. We don't mind to
You
help you.
still said the
You
secure
can-
areas you need to.
Secure area for ERO, we have to control. That we will
Yeah.
talk offline. That we'll talk offline. And also, when you, anything we covered today, if you have a quick question, Moses is also here. I mean, our desktop support can really just quickly help you also on this, at the spot.
So let's look at that the point about, let's see here, where is my, okay. So that last point about the special or secure files, we'll either talk to us or we will be talking specific, like the ERO case is kind of special, but we can talk about that, so you can do that too, but not everybody needs to know that.
That is for us to add yet another lock so that the file is very secure, this particular person can see, others don't, that kind of thing.
I'm really only going to look right now at this first bullet. I'm only going to demo this first bullet, and just I'll make a couple notes about the second bullet. With images, I know that the website is not media heavy. I mean, there's not 20 images per page of content. It's typically maybe there's one image that accompanies a page, and that's it. And only in special cases are there multiple images per page. Keeping that in mind, trying to make an easy way to attach a single image to a page and not have you need to worry about how to format it, how to size it, where to put it, all that kind of stuff. So I call that the easy option, which is this idea of a highlight image. And I think you maybe saw that in some of the other pages when we looked at the edit mode for various pages. I've been playing with this service page, so let me go there. I'm going to go back into edit mode. You'll see there's no images on this page yet, right? I mean, this is just text and bullets and links, that kind of thing. Edit mode. And this field right here is a new field that you saw, I think, on all the different example content types we looked at. And you'll see it across most content types that you work with in the site. And remember how I said whenever you see this browse button, that usually means that you're going to open up your own computer's hard drive? I'm going to pick an image. I have this picture of a book here that I got from Google Images. I'm going to just follow the pretty standard process of choosing it and uploading it. That's all I'm going to do. And I'm going to save my page. So what happens here is that that image I uploaded has been resized, has been positioned in that one spot in the upper right-hand corner. And it's formatted, it's got some special effects where if I click on it I see the large version, that kind of thing. And all of that was done automatically by the system. There was no resizing, no formatting, no positioning, nothing. It's just the easy, 2-click method to upload an image and consistently have it display on a page, which may very well be cover 90% plus cases where an image has to appear within a page. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's been our assumption, at least starting with this process, is just make it really easy to cover 80-90% of the cases and keep it consistent.
And when you say title, that's a required field, right, to have some kind of caption for the image?
It's
and
optional.
If you have a, okay, so our style guide is not that we require a title?
Well, I should change the text to say caption. Title actually has another significance in HTML
Right.
world, but
Okay.
this will, let's just say also.
And that's also where we would put a source credit if it was like Creative Commons or something we used to
Sure.
allow that. Okay.
Yep.
So that's free text right now, but
Free-
recommended that we use, put something there,
It's
right?
formatted also.
So that title text is set up to also appear as a
sorry.
caption.
I was thinking that was a mouse over. Oh, okay, that's different then.
It's also the mouse over.
But what if you don't want a caption, but you just want a mouse over? Isn't that what we did with law? Credit for the image on the law topic guide. It just appears as a mouse over and not a
Do you, right now, that mouse over and caption is the same. Do you foresee a reason need to be different?
Yeah, sometimes you want an image, but you don't want to necessarily have a caption, but you want to be able to identify something about the image. If we go to the law topic guide, I found an image that had a Creative Commons license. So,
Which one is it?
Legal
databases. So if you mouse over that image, there we go.
Yeah.
So that's an alter ALT.
This one, the way this image is handled, well, if a content, is that common just to topic guides, or is that common to lots of different
No, I'm just talking
content?
about a common practice with finding open access images that
Uh-huh.
sometimes they require that you credit the source of the image, but you wouldn't necessarily want to take up that space within the text of the web page.
I see.
But I do think it is specific to topic guides, because usually when we're having an image with news or events, it's related to the news
Sure.
or event, and we
And
explain that in the
caption.
caption. Whereas topic guide, I think similarly for the medieval topic guide, we have a medieval image.
Okay. Well, I can look into what we can do there and see if we have the ability to separate the mouse over text from the caption text.
Yeah.
And if not, if that is inhibitive, then I might suggest we just set up a special field that structures it differently for the topic guides.
Okay.
But external, apart from topic guides, hopefully the what we just looked at would work. You could just decide if you want to caption or not, and leave that blank or fill that title field in to create the caption.
So do we have, in news, do we usually have a caption under the image?
Sure, because otherwise it wouldn't really make
Okay.
In the
sense.
history page in the blog.
Like we'll talk about microfilming a newspaper, and then we'll have a newspaper, but then we want to say it's the front page from the 1912 edition, whatever.
I'm glad you brought up the news example. This is a news article, and these highlight images are also set to accompany the teaser in special cases. So what you set as the highlight image also becomes the little square thing that you see in next to the teaser and the news list. I don't think there's really any other lists that do this. But it's a, you know, you put it there once and then it's used in multiple places. Does Event have that?
It's true that if you go to Linda Hall though, that doesn't have a caption because it's a logo.
Some events, they can or may not, right? Depending on whether or not there's a actual image attached to it.
See, I'm not sure if I don't just agree with Virginia, where sometimes you might want the caption and other times you might feel it
It's
just
like self-explanatory. So.
and you don't want to take up the extra space.
Well, what Ryan's saying is you don't have to fill in the title. It's not required.
No,
I
yeah.
just was asking if you could, in some cases, have a mouse over and not
Right.
a face caption.
It's not whether or not you can control the caption, it's whether or not you have a separate option for a mouse over, right? That's really all it comes down to. Right, and I'll look into that a little more and see what we can do. So now, that's the easy way, and all I'm going to say about the other ways is that there are other ways. And in fact, if anybody is doing a lot of image-heavy document or page editing, it would probably make sense for us to sit down and talk about the other ways, because we do have some new tools available to us now that we have this file browser concept. We can actually leverage this file browser concept to do some pretty cool things with images. This is the generic add an image manually screen. We do still have this browse server tool available to us and can actually get into some cool things with images that we want to attach to a page directly from the server somewhere. These are really big ones. And I'm not gonna detail this, but just so that you can see, we do have some mechanisms available to us to do some cool things.
And this will go through the same workflow review and approval process for any new image.
And I mean, this is stuff that I'm just saying it's possible and it wasn't possible before, but it's not necessarily something we want to get into detail about right now, because 80-90% of the image needs could hopefully be serviced with that more simple highlight image field. Okay, so that's really everything I wanted to cover until that last topic of workflows and permissions. Are there any questions, though, pending? So, kind of two subtopics in this topic, the workflows, and then we'll talk very briefly about permissions and what different editors might have access to that others don't. Workflows, this is something that already exists within the site, and I think everybody's somewhat familiar with. As content makes its way from creation to becoming live, there are different sub-stages that we've explicitly set up just to make sure that everybody who needs to see and have a say about different types of content can have their chance to do so, to make edits, to make formatting changes, that kind of thing. And different people are stepping in during different stages in the workflow process. The different stages you see there, right now it's probably not valuable to go into the specifics of who steps in during all those stages, because I think that's pretty well established already. What you don't see is the stage that is called approved. That doesn't mean that that stage is gone. It just means that we've found it's probably just simpler to bundle that approval process into taking the content and making it published. It seems like just an extraneous process to put it from formatted to approved and then to published, when it could go straight from formatted to published.
Yeah,
And that's
what do you
Bernie's-
think about this?
Yeah, well, that's the way I thought it worked, because whenever I hit the approve thing, I get an email like 2 minutes later saying it's been published.
But that's me. I go in and publish
Really?
after
Right.
you approve.
Oh, you're really fast.
So,
She's
so
excited.
what
So
we
excited.
are, because when you approve, she will get a message. She says Bernie, she sees Bernie approve. So
Right.
what we are thinking here is when you see the pipeline, you can just put it into publish and it will be really published. We can save step. Or if
Yeah.
something very urgent, you didn't log in case somebody published it, not you, for whatever reason after communication, you will see that as a pipeline also says, I didn't see this, but I gave them permission. They occasionally put a page up. That will be you granted the permission to one of us do that.
Right.
Then you can still see it and then editing after it's published.
Uh-huh.
Would that be okay with you or?
So it would work where if I said okay, it would work where that everybody would have permission to publish, but they would only use it when I
We
said
don't
something.
use it unless you emailed us or told us you can put it into publish.
Well, how would the system know then that I approved them to put that in the public?
You just click on publish, and it will be published. We will all know it's published.
Yeah, I'll step back a little bit here. The different stages. Firstly, I think different content types have historically had a different set of stages. One thing that we want to do is eliminate that and just stick to these set of stages, whether it's a review or a topic guide or a page or a news article or an event, just stick to this consistent set of stages, which kind of eliminates some of that confusion about who's approving it or who's involved with one stage to the next. That said, it would be up to everybody in this room to govern when it goes. We wouldn't restrict to one person and say only you can take it from this stage to this stage. It's just kind of an honor system. It's just a tool to help govern the process.
So we just establish like a protocol with different
Yes.
content types of what. So when with the stuff that Bernie approves, like for news items, does that impact you at all if he approves and publishes at the same time?
No, I just, correct me if I'm wrong, like the original setup was right now I'm the only person that edits, right? Once everything gets submitted, it goes to me, I edit, and once I approve, format. And then usually either you format or I
Right,
format.
right.
Then Bernie approves, but Bernie didn't have to approve everything. Like Bernie wanted to approve, because it's a lot of content. You wanted to approve news and events items. I'm trying to remember what else. And now it'll be everything.
Well,
Reviews, we're not.
We
And
still
blocks
we
and
just want to
boxes.
make this more universal across different content.
Mm-hmm.
The basic idea is editing is supposed to be done by one, but if one's not here, in case Virginia need to move stuff forward,
Right.
she can put that into edit stage. So
And so
edit
can
is for
anybody.
one, yeah.
Right.
And the formatting is for systems. In case Ryan is on vacation, one of us would check the format and move it forward. So in general, editing is one. But it could be Virginia. The formatting should be Ryan, but it could be one of us, other people in the systems. The published should be Bernie, because right now after proof, there is no more step. Actually,
Right.
we just changed step. Nobody
Yeah.
need to do anything because all the work was done. So you just push it to be published, and then nothing is pending. You can see it right there. So publish is always Bernie, unless he tell one of us this is okay, go ahead.
But that's for
But-
every kind of content.
mhm.
Yeah, but he don't have to, right? I mean,
Okay.
if you say you want to publish it, you don't want to wait for Bernie, you can. There's nowhere block anybody or
Yeah.
you to do that.
It would be up to you to
There's no
determine
difference there.
when it's appropriate to
Just-
go ahead, and because you know he doesn't want to be bothered by that particular piece of content, and it can go ahead and be published. It'd be up to you to make that call, because you know.
So in other
We
words,
don't
you're
know
not
best.
changing the rights.
We
You're
did not
just
change
changing
it
the
because the rights
labels.
has actually been there open.
Yes.
We did remove approval because after approval, between approval and publish, there's just somebody log in and click publish.
Yeah.
That's the only thing. Nothing happened there. That's
Right.
why we removed the approval. Everything else is the same.
Sounds like good to me.
Sorry.
And
I don't think the offers were being approved by you either, Bernie. So it's just
So
gonna remain
we-
the same.
That's what I mean, I
Right.
thought he just wanted approval, and I don't mean to speak for you, on specific things, like things that were gonna be on the front page, the news and events, wasn't across the board.
We,
And
we
you
are
could-
hoping to get a sort of
It's a lot of stuff.
two things that can be easily viewed by Bernie. One is the ones really just waiting for Bernie to publish. It's sitting there waiting for you. The other is, you did not see this, but it got published, and we will get the recent list, so you can always go there and take
that's
Yeah, I can
that's
always
what I
go
want
into
to
the pipeline and see what's in the works.
Well, that's what I want to show
It's
you.
okay the way it is now.
The this point about monitoring with email and the dashboards,
Mhm.
the email flows would still take place where as a piece of content jumps from one stage to the other, the appropriate people would see that, and the author would also see that as it follows its way through the workflow. And the format of those emails will change a little bit. I've been, they would look something like this, where you could see, what the page was, what content type it was, where it is in the workflow status, that kind of thing. I think I had a version here. It would look something like this. It would tell you who the author is, who is the person that just changed the state, what the state was prior. Here's the main steps once it's been created. So you could monitor this in email format, but you could also monitor this in the pipeline, which has changed a little bit. Instead of it just being one pipeline, there's going to be a couple different panels here. One that shows you everything that's in the pipeline, no matter what state it's in. One that's not showing right now because there's nothing in the formatted state. Can I change this one?
Go ahead, that one's kind of a, I don't know, it's like a zombie, I'm not sure.
Can we go back to the staging and do this?
Well, I don't have all those panes in the staging. I just have it in production. So I'll just change this one to formatted, because basically once it goes to formatted, that's basically implicit that it's waiting for approval. So I got my email reminder. Let's go back to the pipeline. Where was that? Go back to this dashboard. Not in staging right now. I just haven't set this up in staging, but this will be part of the new rollout. So now I have a separate list that says basically awaiting approval or publication. So this, for Bernie, this would be something you could go and explicitly say, hey, this list is mostly for me. And I have a single view of stuff that's pending approval. And on top of that, here's another view that's new, which says, hey, these are things that were published in the last 30 days. In case something got published, which you wanted to approve and didn't get a chance to approve, you could look at this list and say, these are the things that went out recently. I didn't get a chance to see it, and I want to see it. You can go see it.
I wonder if it would be possible just to put me on get an email when anything is published.
You would get an email too.
Because right now I just get an
prefer to
email on
see
the
it.
things that I approve that are published.
Oh, I see.
We
Okay.
were wondering, do you want to see that much email or not?
You want
prefer
all-
that
Yeah, no,
email.
I can just set up a file in my Outlook that puts them all
Right.
into the same folder, and I
Sure.
can just go back and do that. But like Mary was saying, don't I have to approve everything? I don't have to approve reviews or anything like that, but it'd be good to know
Sure.
if I knew when they were published so I could go take a look at
Sure.
them. Because then, the reviews, I don't even, it makes it easier for me to keep track of what we're putting out there.
Right.
And that's useful
Sure.
for me.
We can always add that email.
Yeah, oh yeah. So everything that goes into the needs approval or has been published would be something you'd want to get an email about.
Well, anything that needs my approval, I'd want to get an email about. But anything at all that's published, I'd like to get an email on after the fact. not before. I don't want to hold up anything, more than I do already.
Okay.
Because when I'm away, sometimes it's really slow getting things approved, and I don't want to hold anything up more than just the things we've already designated, which were the news items and
Right.
events, I think.
And then everybody else, presumably everybody in the room does not want to get an email
No.
about every single state change. So we'll have to be, we'll finalize a base
Tweet.
strategy for who gets the emails about specific state changes and try to keep it controlled but somewhat liberal so you can at least see what's going on. And then if people are getting too much email or want to get email, they're not get whatever, we can tweak things as we go. But between the pipeline and those emails that go out, the goal is everybody is very informed about what's happening.
I wonder if there's a way of, when we had new content on our website, of notifying our Facebook page of it. If
Well,
there's
we
no-
usually do when there's,
What?
a news event, like Linda Hall.
Do they automatically?
Legal, not automatically, but I post them.
I wonder if, if there's a way of just automatically.
You are thinking news, or you're thinking more any new page?
Well, any of the events, maybe, or any of the new electronic resource reviews, or the electronic resource things. I mean, I just wonder if, since it's automatic anyway, can we just help populate our Facebook page that
You
way?
have to massage the content a little bit on Facebook because it's,
You would.
The
otherwise it just kind of,
context,
yeah, it picks up the, the first
Okay, well,
paragraph,
it's
and that might not
something
be
to
the
think
right.
about,
But I'm, that's part of my gig
Next week,
is
talking
Facebook,
about,
so
social.
you should definitely put that up there.
I mean,
If
because
it- if
people
it-
really want to keep up with everything that's happening here. We don't have
Mhm.
any RSS feed now,
Mm.
but if we,
Right. We don't know if they really.
We can, speaking of
It could be really
RSS,
annoying, yeah.
any of the lists on
Yeah,
the
we don't want
website.
too many people just sign up and say CRL is too intrusive either.
yeah, no, I agree.
Right.
So, yeah.
As a aside, if you do see lists of content that you would like to make available as RSS, that's very doable.
Mhm.
That's something we can do
Yeah.
with the system. We can enable a lot of different RSS feeds,
Yeah.
Oh, we
How
wanna-
much we want to go to social?
but that's another.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
want to talk about some social networking some more and talk about, kind of strategies for it. But like, for instance, with the reviews, we talked about RSS when we first talked about rolling out the reviews. One problem is that sometimes the revisions to the reviews can be very minor, and we were worried that that would annoy
Yeah.
people if they were getting a notice
Yeah.
all the time. If it could somehow be, I don't know if you can
Yeah.
differentiate with RSS when a completely new document comes up as opposed to
Yeah.
updates.
I
Is
think
that
possible? we can find a solution
that
to
would be
those things.
super if it could be when a review is first released, but if we just change one little detail in it,
Right.
then you take
We also don't know how many prefer to subscribe to RSS.
Right.
Or Facebook, or, I mean,
Right.
there are a whole lot more we
This
do need to discuss.
strategy.
One question, on the EROs, they each will have an expiration date. Is there a way to, when it gets close to the expiration date, an email message be sent to from like Virginia, who then has to edit her review at a certain point?
That is not really a workflow, that's a
Special-
special programming. It's not
Yeah.
the features built in the system.
Right. That would be something that would be
So,
special for ERO
it would
content.
be- Yeah, it would be maybe better when you set up I mean, there are only a handful, when you set up the expiration, maybe send a Outlook appointment to Virginia. With that date. Yeah, right there. Yeah, it would be easier that way than write a special program.
But so the only question I have pending is that the universal single workflow and applying that to all content types, with exceptions for bibliographic citations, for example, doesn't need to be part of a work. But the stuff that's main pieces of content that do have potential to need various edits and eyes on them. Does that work for everybody to have one consistent flow with with those stages, which covers all the bases. Because at the moment, there's about 4 different workflows for different types of content with all kinds of different back-end config. I mean, it's kind of a mess to administer, and it's just a mess for everybody to know what to do, right?
Simple.
So then the only other point I was going to make was, and I can do this very briefly, the permissions. I think really everybody in this room would have the same permissions, and you would be accessing the same kind of tools that I've been doing in the demo. The specifics of that are kind of broken down in this table here, and I mean I could share this offline via email or something like that. But we are in a process of kind of breaking different role distinctions up so that we have a kind of a 3-tiered editor role-based permission system. And most everybody here would probably be just right in the middle there as a CRL editor, which means you can create any type of content, moderate any type of content, edit any of those fields that are relevant to any type of content, everything that you would probably care to do and nothing more. But we would have a level above that, which are special power editors, which is mostly people from systems that need to do extra stuff. And then a level below that, which is other people that maybe only occasionally submit a page, but don't have the authority to publish it, or they just submit it and then you all take it through the workflow process. That's the bottom line here. That's really all I want to say about that.
One more thing, can we leave there for just a second?
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah, the important reason here is not like which scale you fall into. It is more like we did streamline the rights. For example, now you could clone a page. You should expect to be able to clone a page when you create a new content. You should be able to see the first one,
You would have
the form, like somebody
all of
registered.
these.
Everybody should have rights to view an event registration, see how many people registered. Also, sometimes there are duplicates because you are CRL editors. You should be able to delete duplicated entries from the event registration. It's very easy to follow. You just go to the form and it's right there. So this is also for us to streamline the rights, streamline what you should see and should be able to do. Because people often, sometimes ask things they can easily go in and see, and we don't mind to really help at all, but sometimes it delay what you were trying to do.
It's
and
part
we
of
want to remove that kind of layer.
It's part of a much bigger role strategy that applies to other users that aren't editors, which is kind of a bigger picture strategy that we're working on right now. But the only thing that's really relevant to today is this sub-slice that applies to internal editors and so most people would be right in the middle with those 2 blocks. Those would be the kind of things you'd be able to do. And really that's, yeah.
Happy to have any title
Yeah, that's it.
power in it.
So a lot of these things that are minor, like that pull down jump menu that I showed you at the very beginning, a lot of little things like that, I think we don't have to delay rolling out. But the change in the visual editor and in the edit screen breakdown, that kind of thing, we were planning to wait about a week to roll that out and give everybody a chance to go into staging if you like and mess around, basically. You can log in with the same credentials that you use to get onto the main site, and you're not going to break anything because it's staging. The only content types that are set up, so to speak, for that are user friendly, I should say, are let's see, staging. The ones that are listed in this main base types, all of these, you can play with. I haven't actually taken the time because it's just staging and it's just temporary to format all the edit screens and make them look nice and follow all the rules we've talked about for all the other content types. So if you do go into staging and do play around and don't be afraid to break things.
I know it's late, so I
Use
I want
those.
Really quick.
And then does a week sound like an appropriate amount of time before?
We wasn't sure how comfortable everybody would be, so we thought we would delay the rollout for a week so you will have a chance to review. How do you in general feel about this kind of change?
That sounds fine.
Yeah, I feel okay.
Yeah,
tonight.
I think soon, while it's
Hopefully.
fresh in our minds.
Right, okay.
Good.
Again, today's demo is recorded if anybody wants to refresh, and we will do more detailed sort of tutorial training kind of screen capture so you can follow a specific subject. And we will start to roll out. Ryan really did a great job.
Yeah,
Some of this
that's
looks simple, but it's really
Yeah.
under the hood, very complex tasks in addition to other tasks.
Could I
Part
ask
of
one
it-
last question while we're all in the room? Sorry, go ahead.
Sure. I'll just make one follow-up. Part of this is also a lot of behind-the-scenes technical things to try to make things somewhat forward compatible for future upgrades and future versions, and that's a big task. And so some of this is an incremental step towards making that more friendly as we go down the road. So that does define some of the changes we made as well.
That's good.
Anyway,
So can you go back to that news node that you had in the formatted section?
the news.
The one that you were playing with. You could go to pipeline. I think it's go to the pipeline tab up there.
Oh, sure. Was it?
Just pipeline. Go keep going straight up.
Oh, up at the top, the tab.
Oh, you already have a tab open. Huh?
Right.
This is in the.
The
not
one
saved.
that the awaiting approval publication one.
This one?
Yeah.
Yep.
Because I'm glad we're all here because there always seems to be question about this, especially if Bernie, maybe doing a lot of these on his own. If we go to, this is the old session though, isn't it? In the new one, there's two things you have to do to publish, right? Click the box and you move to publish the
Ye-
node. And
yes.
then sometimes you have to go to view grant. There is always confusion about
You
it.
would-
and
yeah,
I just
y-
wanted to go over it.
With very few exceptions, all you would be doing is changing the workflow status, and the rest would happen automatically.
So
Yeah,
we'll
to
no
click
longer
the
have a
link
little box
at the bottom.
Right.
published.
Right. You would not have to do that.
So all
step.
Bernie has to do is click publish.
It's change the status, and the act of doing that tells the system to go ahead and publish it. It's all linked.
Which seems like
Not system staff, the box.
That's pretty big.
The box is still there. I know what the box you're talking about. It's
Yeah.
that little.
Down the bottom.
It's still there, but it's one of those fields that we've kind of are purposely excluding from the ones that you care about. It's actually
publishing options.
in publishing options. You're talking about this box.
Yeah.
This would be automatically.
So if you click publish up in the
Turned on and off.
workflow,
This
there,
one is published, but yeah.
it'll automatically do it on the other one.
Yes, and I believe I have it set up so it'll unpublish if I take it out.
Big change. It's great.
Right, because there's really no reason to take that extra step, right? I mean, you're just doing it while changing the status anyway, so why not have it be automatic?
Okay, so now when you go,
Just so we no longer have to pick the audiences who can see
That
it.
was the grant.
The grants.
Which is special only to currently ERO.
Yeah.
Because
Right, so now it's not
ERO
published.
is related to specific user name, you still need to grant. Because it's not manual. See, this one is red on the bottom because it's added. If it's
so
not
you
in
can't link
added,
it. Oh.
then that will be green, so.
So I just took it from formatted to published,
Mm.
and I didn't touch this, but you'll see it's
Okay.
already done for you.
Okay, great. I'm sorry to be such a spaz about it. It just.
No, I mean,
didn't want to
it was a
go
good point. I should have mentioned that
unaddressed,
actually.
'cause it always comes up.
I think the last time we
Thank you.
published an ERO, we had trouble finding the grants box to
Because
grant it.
Ryan had.
Yeah, just to remember, the reason is this, ERO is open to a particular user type.
Yeah.
That's why the grant is related to user type. All the other tab, content tab is open either to
Public.
everyone or close to everyone. So they don't necessarily have that. But you always need to remember to grant
To authenticated user, right?
to a particular user.
But
Right.
the grant
What
option.
wasn't visible to me.
If you
So-
see any issue like that, let us know.
Okay.
Particularly Ryan can help you.
And that's one
Because
of,
that's what we were checking, and neither of us had that.
Yeah, actually, I thought you were saying.
it's
write
automatic
down
now.
automatic.
It is.
Okay.
That one you don't have to touch
Oh,
anymore.
okay.
There's a
For the
number of,
ERO, that's right.
for the ERO, anything that's an ERO content type is automatically,
Oh, ERO
is automatically,
Oh,
the grants are automatically
Okay, cool.
managed.
Wonderful.
Okay.
So there's a number of extra, steps that aren't really necessary for you to be doing manually because the system can take a cue to go ahead and and make a change automatically because it always follows the same rule every time.
Okay.
That's like what we're trying to do with the published workflow stage,
Yeah.
is make that also trigger making it public. The same is true with the ERO. The ERO content type is automatically always locked down.
Okay. Cool.
So there's some,
It's very good.
yeah.
I thought I missed that. Okay. All right.
Great, thank you.
Thank you all, and thank you, Ryan.
Yeah, right, good
Yeah.
job.
A lot of work.
So we'll follow up some more, I guess, via email when everything becomes an official change.
Go ahead, do you still want to publish the event notes? It's almost there.
Attachment things.
The
From
annual
what
event.
our current reviews.
The,
in the
sure.
current website. I know you told me you can work on this anyway. One of the ones that has an appendix,
It was
like the Times of India has
archived.
an appendix.
They did ask me for
So-
approval over the two grants.
So for the
Amy, I guess, isn't here today, and she asked me to
render
take a
the
screenshot.
This one?
Okay.
Yeah.
It will be
Got
on the
in
side.
there.
Okay.
And I will be also
If we go to
inside
the
of
appendix,
inside
well, I guess
of
if we go to
the
edit.
body.
We acquired
Oh, is this still gonna be the case
Yeah.
when we get
Take a look at
it?
either
I have
way.
to choose
We
the
still
tab
need
after.
maybe about a half
It
hour
is,
to finish.
Okay.
Then
It'll
you can
still
put it
appear
in the
Okay, great.
much like this.
Yeah, I'm gonna be here. I'll probably a little late today, so.
We will
Question was just,
you
it
when we are
assigns a
done.
title where I have to put a title.
Just
Someone
a
can still
second. Can we stop this?
Archival, buying code.